us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night. Only on 919.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. You're listening to 919. My name is Jack Devnarain and this is Reality Radio. It's as real as it gets. Every Friday night from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. when we have a guest live in studio to tell us the stories that shape their remarkable lives. You've had a remarkable life. Comedian?
Well, yeah.
I love that. Okay, let's talk about that. How comfortably do the roles fit together, investigative journalist and playwright?
Well, I wouldn't call myself a playwright. I haven't written any plays. I've just what's interesting is I grew up, I think, in a world where I felt outside of a reality that was happening. I grew up in Pretoria in the 1960s and 70s, the child of immigrant parents, surrounded by really hardcore Afrikaans kids. And ever since I was a kid, I've always felt that I'm the camera looking at what's happening because things are happening to me and to people around me. So, a police van would pull up and would just arrest all the workers because they didn't have passes. Yeah. And I'd be a child watching that. Or the Ndebele woman would be walking home across the mountain wearing beautiful traditional dress and resting on a sidewalk, and someone would come out and shout at people like dogs. So you see these things as a child, or you take a domestic worker's child with you to the park to swing, and somebody screams from over the road, take that child off the swing, they're not allowed on there. So you don't, that kind of environment opens your mind very quickly because it's weird.
Yeah.
It's odd, and everybody's colluding, and it's happening, and this is just the way it is. So I think from early on, being an outsider looking in, as I've said to you before we went on air, my mom was a domestic worker in Portugal. I mean, she was Portuguese and worked in England, and then came to South Africa with my dad. So there's something about growing up with a Portuguese mother and a German father in a Pretoria neighborhood, which made us other. And the Portuguese people weren't really liked because they were Catholics, and there was the issues of Angola and Mozambique, and Germans were preferred. But I was an outsider. I speak Afrikaans fluently because of that. And I think that contributed to my curiosity as a child, as an outsider, as feeling that I'm the camera. I'm looking at this world and it's unfurling, but it doesn't make sense to me on some levels. And so I must make sense of it myself. I only sort of chose journalism, I thought would be a good career much later on. I thought being an ice cream seller would be a great career.
It's still a great idea.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I thought I could eat my own produce, but I did see myself on a bicycle, ringing the bell. Yeah. So it starts there, bearing witness in a way. That's what journalists do, is bear witness. You have to go to crash scenes, you've got to see dead children, you've got to go to family murders. Yeah. You have to watch dead people coming out of buildings. It's pretty grim and it's pretty banal as well. I was a crime reporter for a long time as well. So you need something to counterbalance that kind of harsh reality of life, but most people live in it. Yeah. So when you are in a township reporting, as a reporter in those days, you would always leave at some point unless you were arrested. Other people had to live in it.
See, I think, just to pick up on that though, we forget that people come from different realities, and we often impose upon them an idea of your behavior is outrageous. I don't know why you're doing this. But we are judging a situation that we don't fully understand in many, many cases. Going back to you as a child, and you discover your role as a witness, a camera into this world where there are these little episodes of outrage and injustice that doesn't make sense to your world. But at the same time, there were other kids, and whatever was unfolding made complete sense to them. So how did you find yourself relating to those kids?
And we fought each other. We were violent. We were the early Amakwerekweres.
Yeah.
Those working class Afrikaans kids hated us. But they didn't set us alight. But they did hit us. They did chase us. They thought my mother was like, they had the most terrible things to say about her. But at that time it was fun. Because we would sink their things or steal their bikes or hide their clothes or, so there was a rivalry there. There was some kind of a us and them.
Yeah.
So the immigrant children weren't all, they were like Portuguese, German, Dutch. These parents all came to South Africa with technical skills that they had.
Yeah.
And with different religions. And all of the Afrikaans people around us were NG Kerk, and they worked for government and ISCOR, they worked for Munitoria. They were those, kind of that backbone, Broederbond, sort of lower middle class people who were going to become teachers. So my main exposure was to that, and then other immigrants. And then passing through our lives, because my mother cleaned our house, we never had a domestic worker, so I still don't like that. But passing through our lives were all these black people who either worked in other people's homes or in shops, or who were walking to bus stops, and never an intersection unless the police arrived, unless violence happened.
Yeah.
And when you ask the questions, you have immigrant parents saying, this is not your country, don't get involved.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I got fully involved eventually.
Apparently you did, yes.
As involved as I could have. But my parents both grew up under dictatorships. My mother grew up under Salazar in Portugal. One of her brothers was in the Communist Party, and he was unrecognizable after he was arrested. She had 5 brothers. My father was in Hitler's Luftwaffe.
Yeah.
So both of them were shaped by fascism. And their minds were shaped by fascism. And in my mother's case, it was keep quiet, don't speak, because they come for you. And in my father's case, it was Germans, the most civilized people in Europe, reading Schiller, listening to Beethoven, but causing a massacre. And people, Hitler looks like Donald Trump a little bit in the way he speaks, the idiocy. And so you've got these ancestors who followed this moron into complete oblivion. In fact, on the 27th of April, 1945, my grandmother woke up and her country was gone. And they had only themselves to blame. Now, that is in my past. That is in my home. That is in my head.
Yeah.
And I think it prepared me to live in South Africa in a way, because it made me conscious of politics.
Coming from your home reality, though, where your mum had trained herself to not react, not say anything, not reveal anything, you made a different choice. You couldn't just leave it alone, could you?
Well, my parents were bullied by history.
Yeah.
And many people get bullied by history, and you have to. I expected of my father at some point to have made a choice as a German. Why didn't he speak out? Didn't he see Jewish people being put onto trains and being sent to their death? And he said to me, then I was just a boy. But I always thought you should have done something. Maybe it was like, carrying the shame of being half German. And so when the moment arrives when you need to actually do what you require your parents to have done, when they were in a situation where other people were being hurt by politics, then you must, you must do it, jy moet jou ding bring.
Judge not lest you be judged.
No, well, do the thing. Don't ask people to do the thing and then not do it yourself.
Yeah.
And then when the Gupta leaks landed, I thought, oh, God, ek het nou hiervoor gevra. Oh no, the Gupta leaks, leaks. Is that really it? Honestly, the Gupta leaks. So I feel that perhaps, my past, where I grew up, my parents, the multiculturalism of my home, my love for languages and other cultures, have prepared me all for the moment I'm in the long run.
I see the long run, and we're going to keep running with this. We're just beginning, and there's so many things that I need to speak to you about. First, though, we're going to take a bit of a break.
Sure.
And we'll come back.
Let's do it.
It's Reality Radio with Marianne Thamm.
The Feel Good Drive with Nicole De Silva on 919.
A person within this. Being in that space at all, it sort of elevates you to where other people would like to use you. I'm now at a point where I'll say no. So I can see it from a mile away. Someone you don't hear from in forever and always sends you a message. Hey, friend. Friend, long time.
Oh my gosh, what are you up to?
Not even how you. Straight into. Do you mind doing this for me?
Hell no. Hell no.
I've had to learn how to say no. And then there's not even friends. There's people that work in the industry that like to take advantage.
The Feel Good Drive, 3 to 6 p.m. on 919. 919 has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, programming that is not harmful to children and that does not amount to hate speech, or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. If you think we're not living up to that code, you can inform the BCCSA. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa to PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024, or email the BCCSA at napsa.co.za. For more information, visit the bccsa.co.za. We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
And we're back. It's reality radio on a Friday night. Me, Jack Devnarain, in conversation tonight with Marianne Thamm. Marianne, did you invent performance journalism?
I don't think I did. No, I don't think I did. I think people like Trevor Noah has invented it, actually. If you think about what The Daily Show is, and you think about who are the else, Colbert and all of those people,
yes.
In a way, that's performance journalism. Okay. In a sense. And the danger is also, if you think about the president of Ukraine, was also a sort of comedian journalist. So I think it's a way to make the world palatable, or the news more palatable for an audience who feels deluged by something. Some people have the talent and ability to do it really well, and it's a branch of journalism. I don't think I invented it at all. Maybe standing up in an audience, but I do think it's something that's existed for some time. The different kinds of performance journalism.
Yeah, that's what I wanted just to talk about briefly, because you can imagine Trevor Noah was sitting there with an entire room full of writers and researchers, and they'll help to put the show together. So that's going to be a multi-camera setup with his auto cue and his director talking in his ear. Your kind of performance journalism is you alone on a stage.
Yep. Well, I mean, me alone on a stage, wanting to share what it was like to be part of the media during peak state capture, but also to celebrate with you that which survived. And because I was there, I know. So we know what went wrong. I mean, we know the traffic lights get sawn off and people walk away with it. We know. We know Parliament burned down, and we all went to the beach. But what helped us? What stood strong during that time? It's a time I can almost not remember, because before the Gupta leaks, Sam Soul and Amabungani and Media 24 and Scorpio, I'm a different kind of investigative journalist to some of them. They're able to do the forensic deep dives, and I can do other sort of stuff. So we all brought talents to this endeavor, which was suddenly the enormity of what it was, the responsibility of everything confirming state capture we now have in our hands was enormous. It was unbelievable. So, but there's a lot of humor in South Africans. Are incredibly funny. The way we do corruption, the way we bend rules, the way we are diverse and pick up from each other. And because I live in the real world, I see it. And I connect with it. So somewhere I wanted to just show people the core of state capture, what it did to us. I don't blame or talk about anybody. I show you the numbers. But around that, I also share with you just the things I think are really just so uniquely, wonderfully South African. Because I enjoy them, and I would like you to enjoy them. I'd like other people to see it. And this is a country in becoming. It's not static. It's always in the process of unfurling. It's only 30 years old. And young people at the moment are doing incredible things. So I also think people need to perhaps be guided every now and again about where's the country going. This is not 1994. This is not 1997. It's not the 2000s. You know, we've got this amazing, election coming up. We love democracy so much in this country. We've got 52 parties.
And we can even burn a flag.
We can, wait, you know what? It's unbelievable. We've got 14,905 people in this country who'd like to run the show.
Yes.
I think that's brilliant. Try that in America. Try that in Russia. So there's something about understanding freedom and democracy, even though there have been a serious attack on it from within and without. It's withstood, to a certain extent.
So let's I want to get to the title though. This is Round of Applause, South Africa Still Standing.
Yep.
That's the name of the show, right?
Yep, that's
okay,
right.
great.
That's
so
right.
you had a fantastic run at the Baxter Theatre.
I did.
Last month. This was in May?
Yeah, just the other day.
April.
Yes, yeah. 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Look, the whole thing is very unexpected. And it was because I had gone to do another thing called Talking Heads at Spear. And this is a lovely event where people who supposedly know more than others sit and people come and listen to you. And that evening, educated people, engaged South Africans, lovely people. Not one of them knew how we stopped the nuclear deal.
Nobody knew. Okay.
Not one. Not one of them knew about.
And this was disturbing to you that they didn't know.
Well, I thought, what are the journalists writing? What are we doing? What are the people who fought for that nuclear deal to be declared unconstitutional? Why don't people know? And I realized it's just too much. So I found a way to highlight the beauty of the Constitution, what the Zondo Commission meant, what we saw, that things we should cherish that stood by us during state capture.
Yeah.
And the Constitution is under attack at the moment, and of course it will be. It stood strong. So the show is about that and giving people a sense that democracy and freedom is an ongoing process. You have to guard it. Young people know it in this country. They know it. They feel it. If you've got children, you can see. Flying from, if you've lived in apartheid South Africa and you've lived in early democratic South Africa, you've lived as long as me, 63 years. You can see this is not the country it was before. It's beautiful. We're gentle and we're bullied by so many successive waves of politics. It's time for us to say no, not anymore.
Yeah.
We don't want to be bullied no more.
That really needs a level of activism and personal commitment, doesn't it? There was something you said just earlier on that I actually think is, you may be quoting yourself, by the way.
Oh, goodness me. As long as I get royalties from myself, it's fine.
Yeah, I know an agent who can help you.
I know.
Yeah.
I thought I'd tell you that.
Everybody knows what went wrong. And I seem to recall that came up as a quote in an article with the Tribune last year. Because I wanted to question that. Do people really know what went wrong?
I think that we can see what went wrong. It's all around us. It is physically in the environment around us,
right.
In the infrastructure that's crumbling, in the rail services that don't work. Making working class people pay, particularly in Cape Town, exorbitant amounts to because of apartheid spatial planning and get rid of the trains. That's being restored. But you do see it if you travel through South Africa, which is what I do. You see the destruction, the actual physical destruction. That and the spiraling, it's called like spread, corruption spread. It starts spreading everywhere. Everybody thinks they can get away with it. But you've always got to find an equilibrium and fight back. There's enough people civil society in this country is phenomenal.
We agree.
In Joburg, we hear your e-tolls, that was civil society. So civil society throughout South Africa, including in the smallest little rural towns, people know what it was like to be oppressed.
Do you remember the high occupancy vehicle lane?
Yes, I do.
I don't even know how it arrived and left. I think within a year it was done.
Yes, no, because South Africans are ungovernable. you have to build it in. You've got to build it into the structure.
But I also think it was a pretty irrational idea, though, from the very beginning.
Well, why?
I don't think that people had considered how people travel along that route and why. which is why I suspect it failed from the very beginning. I wanted to just go back to the point you were making about we can all see what went wrong. I agree that we can all see what is wrong. But I want to make a distinction between seeing what is wrong and knowing why it ended up that way.
Mm-hmm.
So do people know, to rephrase the question, do people know what went wrong in order for things to end up in that way?
Well, at the bottom of it all, you have to realize once the Berlin Wall collapsed, the world stopped dealing in ideology.
Ah.
And we ended up dealing only in money. It's money. It's about money.
Yeah.
Once we removed financial controls, I would think there's a book called Whoops. The engine of capitalism took off and left the ox cart of social justice behind.
Yeah.
So social justice didn't become a priority. American sort of style, everything can be bought and sold. If you look at the 5 richest people in the world today, something is wrong with the economy. A lot of what happened in South Africa happened in the context of an already corrupted financial system. And the pestilence, so to speak. It was much easier for it to invade various levers and institutions of state. Almost in Russia, what happened was Putin sold off to the oligarchs everything that belonged to the people. I think that it's interesting. The ANC thinks that Russia is the USSR. Putin is a Christian. Putin is not a communist. Putin is a capitalist. China decided to stay communist, but Russia is not the USSR. And the people of Russia do not benefit from Russia's riches. The oligarchs do. But you got these kind of... look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a man who's amassed excessive fake wealth, in a sense, and has become the president of the United States of America. So something went terribly wrong. And we can't look at state capture outside of that bigger global picture.
Right.
We just couldn't afford it because the Gupta's state capture cost this country 37 billion rand. Now, it's difficult for us to imagine a billion. Now, if I'm wrong and somebody else has got a better way to explain it to you, someone told me the other day, my friend Lester Malchas, if you spent 10,000 rand a day, every day, for the next 300 years at least, you would not spend a billion.
Yeah, perspective.
Hello.
Yeah.
We are not a poor country, we are unequal. That was money that belonged to the people.
Yeah.
Finished and clear, as Jackie Celebi said.
Yes.
And if I tell you how much Marcus Jooste stole, you want to know how much Marcus Jooste stole from us? And may no name gat on the world's financial markets, 100 billion is what Marcus Jooste stole. Now, these people got away with it, all of them, because accountants helped them, lawyers helped them, bankers helped them. The establishment helped them. And so we now are able to see, in the end, it was journalists who were tasked with the responsibility of chasing that money and exposing how this new, completely pseudo-capitalist financial system works. And it's damaged people in the world. It's damaged us.
Yeah.
I mean, what could we have done with 37 billion?
I think, that's a conversation that it can explore so many different worlds of possibility for us as South Africans just to think about how that money might have helped us. And I'd like to pick up on that, although when we come back from the break, I'd really like to get some feedback from the audiences that you've been talking to, people who've watched your show. Let's get an idea from them. Sure. It's Reality Radio. We'll be back after this.
Reality Radio, as real as it gets, only on 919. The Feel Good Drive with Nicole De Silva.
Finding the right partners. I think it's just about identifying the right people and also not being desperate.
Yeah.
It's kind of like dating, like I said. I mean, I'm married with 2 kids, so I don't know what the scene's out there like there now, but...
it's a mess.
Emotional.
Yeah. Not that I'm there either, but I've heard it's
Why
a mess.
looking at me?
Monday to Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. only on 919. We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
That is the grooviest tune, though.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
It
you
re-
need to get a live band, though.
I love that.
And
We're
the
gonna-
backdrop of the city, because the city was so beautiful tonight.
We're going to have a live.
Johannesburg, beautiful.
And
Love
we
it.
do have a kind of a backdrop here.
do.
Sarah Britton created
That's
this. One
correct.
of her creations, one of her original a lipstick painting jobs.
Beautiful. The sunset
She's,
tonight was...
she's really
Mwah.
impressive. We need also just to reflect. You've got hundreds and hundreds of people who've come to watch your show. Round of applause. South Africa is still standing. And in fact, just to mention it briefly, you're going to be on stage again tomorrow night
Yep.
at the Houghton Golf Club.
Yes.
And for people who are looking for tickets, it's an email address, tarryn@contractors.org.za. That's TARRYN at
One night
contractors.org.za.
only, one night only. I sound like Leonard Cohen. Sorry.
It sounds a little urgent.
One night only. That song goes like that. One night only.
Yeah, I
Don't you
remember it, yes. I remember. So you're on tomorrow night.
Yes.
That's Saturday, the 18th of May. I kept a mental note of the date because today, Friday the 17th, is my daughter's 20th birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to my daughter.
Happy birthday to you, Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I take full credit for that.
Oh, good.
So when you talk to the people who watch your show,
Yep.
and what do you see in them as you first approach them? What do they have in their eyes that they...
Bewildered, overwhelmed South Africans.
Is it?
We've been talking cuck amongst each other about politics, and no fuck all, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
really, it's a, and I don't blame them. But a lot of South Africans, and it's only because of my close proximity to people that I see this, are not aware of what it is that works, that is good. So when people leave, young people come incredibly happy because their parents are quite negative. And I'm talking across the board. Parents, thinking my child must go somewhere else, they must go to America, they must go here, they must go there, somewhere in Africa, they must leave. And those kids are coming to me and saying, I want to stay.
Oh.
And older people are saying, I didn't realize that. So I think it's just about making people feel or understand how precious some of the things are that we have in this country, including our diversity, which is really exceptional. You can be nourished from very, very many streams. It's not often that can happen. And so the show is about actually coming from a journalist who was in the trenches doing state capture. If I'm telling you that I think you'll be okay,
Yes.
I think we're going to be okay, is, I suppose, heartening. I think people feel less depressed. I think people feel that there's been some kind of therapy. They realize that, there are good people and bad people. And in the story, there were good people inside government who leaked things, who understood what was happening, but it took time. So it was the good people. So whenever you find yourself in a situation like this, again, politically, it's about restoring equilibrium at best.
Equilibrium
At best.
is a really, really good thing, because you mentioned earlier that both your parents grew up in fascist regimes. Do you find pockets of fascism in South Africa? What does it look like?
I mean, I would, if I would say, Juju and the way he speaks. And people who speak about, the young man who wants, immigrants out, the way that people speak about other people.
Yeah.
Xenophobia is very scary for me. So I think people who use politics to make you feel that you're different from someone else. Although Juju is now, got other things. So he chooses his hates. He chooses his targets.
So do we all, I suppose.
if you're a bigger person, you don't need to choose your target. Your target will follow you if you've got a message to offer. You don't need to threaten violence. You don't need to be Donald Trump and say we will take by force, because then it means you've got nothing left. In this country, people are pragmatic.
Yeah.
If you actually dig down and start reading Wandile Sihlobo's column on agriculture in South Africa, you'll not be stuck in the loop that, farming is collapsing and nothing is happening. We've got boer soek 'n vrou, things are not what you think they are. So politicians and fascists tend to thrive on ignorance and lies that they repeat over and over again. Fascists are people who lie, people who manipulate, people who despise others and try and sweep up other people to hate others instead of finding a solution where everyone can live. And if you look at South Africa compared to Europe, today Muslim people standing in the queue, we get it. When it's Eid, we thank when the Zulu king is crowned, we all say, wow, that's cool. Eastern Cape, things happen. We feel part of a patchwork. I feel part of a patchwork. I do. I think the royal family in KwaZulu-Natal is special. What you want to say about it. I mean, the British royal family, we've also got our own air and spare, It's much more interesting, and KZN politics has got a long history coming from the colonial era. And much of what plays itself out in the provinces today are part of history, ancient history. But the people who play it out have been here a long time, and they're gut full of being bullied now. Hopefully.
But I mean, the one thing is quite clear is that you celebrate diversity. The reality is that there are many people in this country who think that diversity is a threat to them, to their identity. And that for me is an area of concern because...
Well, you see, nowadays I think it's kind of fascism light or something. You look at the people at Oranje. I went to visit Oranje. Now, Oranje doesn't represent all Afrikaners. Most of the Afrikaans-speaking people I know are cosmopolitan, wealthy people living wherever, jawling on a Friday, Saturday night, spending rands. The people in Oranje view themselves as a cultural group. They say we like the Zulus. We like Zulu people. You must view us like that. We want to be with our own people. You're welcome to go to Oranje if you want to. I did ask, I went on a tour there. In my show, I explained why I had to go to Oranje. Luckily, I'm white, so I could go. I said, do black people come here often? They said, yes, you're welcome anytime. And she said, but people don't feel very comfortable. That's wonderful, polite. No, very politely. Not meaning to be rude, but people don't feel comfortable. But more friendly people you can't get. So they see themselves as a cultural group, a language group, a religious group who accept black majority government. The fact is, Oranje exists. Oranje is free. The people of Oranje are free. They know it. They're free to exist. They like showing off. At the moment, they're busy working with the Amabele kingdom in the Eastern Cape. What on earth?
Okay.
So there's this weird nationalism we have where I understand you're Afrikaans and I see, can I taste some of your kosies and can I taste some of your beer? But at the same time, you're part of the mix. That's what I'm seeing as an insider, outsider. Because the other Afrikaans people I meet who live in, Pretoria, Joburg, they're South Africans. The thing about Afrikaans people is they want to do things. They really want to do things. They don't like standing around. They would like to roll up their sleeves and do things. They want to fill those potholes. Let them. Paul Mashatile, let them fill the potholes. That's who they are.
It's a wonderful thing just looking at how people can consider themselves a separate cultural group. So, would you put into the same category flat earthers and Cape secessionists?
Yes, completely. Because ultimately, if you look at it, they were quite welcome to go and make their own homeland. But if you look at Oranje itself as a financial model, it's quite interesting. It's a private town. You're going to start seeing more of those as towns become abandoned. And if you look at the resources that are there as well, it's a private town owned by, I think, very wealthy Afrikaans people. You do need somebody to clean the toilets. And you do need people to do the dirty work. So there are people who are Afrikaans, they're doing their dirty work, being paid in oras, which is not a currency you can use in South Africa. But they accept this. They accept this role. If you are enkelopend, let's say you're a single man in your 40s, 50s, you're divorced, you've had a hard time in your life, you can't find a job, a BEE, whatever. If you come to Oranje, you live in a residence. You live in a hostel, my friend.
Okay.
No, you move into the hostel. You get one beer to drink.
Yeah.
There's no jawling. No. No dagga smoking. You know, there's no police force there. You live according to their Christian values. So if you are prepared to put up with Oranya's rules, if you are a poor person in Orania, you will be happy. You will be happy because you'll be cleaning toilets for richer white people. But it will be done in the spirit of community. It will be done in the spirit of ons bou ons kinders op, and it's very religious. There's several denominations there. They don't want trouble or soek nie trouble met enige iemand anders nie. That's what they want to do. And they've created an Eden there.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. They know it. You know.
Okay.
They want to show, they're Protestants as well, so they want to show everybody what they can do.
Are you religious?
I was I'm a recovering Catholic. I had a Catholic mother, and if you have anything to do with the Catholic Church growing up, you are a recovering Catholic.
Okay.
We wouldn't have Lady Gaga or Madonna if it were not for Catholicism. So I find formal religion a tad theatrical for me. So I'm not sure. I believe in quantum physics. Let's say that.
Okay, and that guides your beliefs and all the.
But
the energy
we're all the
that
same
binds
thing.
us.
You know that you contain inside yourself a minute ounce of gold. And you know where gold comes from? Gold comes from outer space. When a meteorite hit the Earth, that's how gold was made. There's gold in you. Look it up.
Well, I think this is what Carl Sagan described when he said we are all made of star stuff.
We are. And it's so quantum physics is about energy and life forms, and you can get distracted with it. All it is the same thing as religion. It's a search for the meaning of life, but without the incense and the clapping and the singing. And I can listen to my own soundtrack while I'm doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the dresses and the occasional fiddling by a priest in a swimming pool area. If you're Catholic, are you religious?
No, I'm not. I'm not a religious man. I think I have an appreciation for why you might need to rely on ritual at a certain, there are certain crises that you might face in your emotional and spiritual life. And at those times you might feel a yearning for the comfort that's offered by a practice of ritual, especially if you know that these rituals have been reinforced over time, generation after generation, and you are now attaching yourself, you're connecting to something bigger than you. And there seems to be a reassurance in that. So what kind of performance do you like to watch? The kind of stuff that feeds your creative and performance energy?
It's often just wacky stuff. What I really it's terrible. I love slapstick because slapstick, when somebody walks into a door, those TikToks we all watch. That is you or it's me. We are laughing at ourselves if somebody falls or something happens that's stupid that someone does.
Yeah.
That's my quite basic humor then. And then I like offbeat things make me laugh. I don't know how to explain it to you.
Did you enjoy Monty Python?
I did.
Okay.
I did. It's a bit too British and English for me. It is something about English which is quite straight-jackety, even though all four of those performers wield the language really well. But English is a very polite language. I don't always feel myself speaking English. That's the interesting thing I've realized as well. So it's like Johnny Clegg. If you spoke to Johnny Clegg, if you knew Johnny, and you spoke to Johnny in English, you would get the academic and you would get this. But speak to Johnny in Zulu, and he would come alive. Now, if you find me on my own speaking Afrikaans, I'm able to access parts of myself that I can't with English. Because it's a very funny language as well. It's incredibly funny. It's really funny. And if you get it and you understand it and you see where its other roots are, there's just something, it's beautiful, it's funny. Each individual, the language allows each individual to express themselves in it without being straitjacketed in a way.
What language do you think in?
Both of them, English and Afrikaans.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, I can barely manage one. But we're going to explore the world of language and art and creativity when we're back after this break. It is Reality Radio with me, Jack Devnarain, in conversation with Marianne Thamm.
With my back.
Reality Radio. As real as it gets.
Oh, my sister.
Sister get.
7 a.m. traffic. Now a taxi driver is hot on your tail.
Beep, 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 beep.
Then he passes in the emergency lane and he pulls a finger to you.
CB, Iman.
Now Mr. Finger is pulled over by traffic police.
Come on.
And as you drive past, you say it. Yeah? You deserve it, you mummish.
Justice.
It's a small pleasure, like getting a King value meal.
No fingers.
From a very small $39.90.
Only at Burger King.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
It's Reality Radio on a Friday night with me, Jack Devnarain. Tonight, Marianne Thamm is our special guest in studio. Is there a way that we can remember our whistleblowers? Because we're not doing anything for them.
No, I think there's legislation that's been looked at. There are people who've set up safe spaces. I mean, whistleblowers saved this country.
Yeah.
The journalists didn't. Without the whistleblowers, we're nothing.
Well, the tip-offs had to come from somewhere.
Exactly. And people who unbelievable. I mean, Babita Deokaran got killed. Johan van Lochenburg lost a career and a job. Athol Williams. And that's just a small number, but all of those people should stand out as beacons in contrast to the professionals at Bain and Company and at the banks who enabled the Guptas to steal our money. I mean, the Financial Intelligence Center in 2015, 2016, which is peak state capture, I think there was 38 billion that left in something like 2,000 transactions just at that time. It was picked up. Oh. So, I mean, there was a failure. There was a failure of the system. And at the moment, Peter Hain, who's Lord Peter Hain in England, is arguing for an international corruption court.
Yeah.
Because this is an international problem. It's not just South African. This money is taken out to places, to Holland, through the Netherlands, through Cyprus. It's taken to countries which accept it, which shouldn't be accepting it. And these shelf companies that get opened and registered and signed, and they hide the money that it, in such a diabolical way that it actually is, it's ridiculous. And that's how this fraud is happening. We need to change it. Young people need to get more interested in not making money with Bitcoin and trying to get rich quickly. That's all bullshit. Fix the financial system. Fix the financial system. It's your money. It's your salary. It's your money. They better start treating you like it's your money. But young people feel differently about money. But so the financial markets are a problem. But if run properly, it's where people can also make wealth properly. But when you have this kind of corruption, look at what Steinhoff has done to our reputation globally. And, in terms of the money that happened and what it did to a company, and that's one Afrikaner, who did that. So we need to return to a time where it's almost back to the future, where we need to take some of the values we had before the financial market changed, before many good things have changed in the world, but how we do business with each other. We used to be customers. Now we're just clients. Anybody's got money. Nobody cares if you're a customer. You buy this thing, it breaks, nobody cares. Everyone's got money. Everyone's got cheap money. So what is it about your company, or what is it about you that makes you different as a company? Is it just because you employ only South Africans? Start being conscious.
One of the most cynical parts of me, I can identify those corporate entities that are trying to make you think that they care by simply spending money with an agency that's going to put out some ridiculous message that makes that gives an impression of them that is completely false. And I see that all the time, maybe because there is something about language and the way that we use it. This language gift that we have is enormously empowering. It's almost a superpower. You can see through stuff because you know how language works.
And psychology.
Yeah.
I mean, Edward Bernays, who was Sigmund Freud's, I think, nephew, he is the first person to start public relations. And if you realize what he did with, everybody thinks that the suffragettes in the United States, the women who were fighting for women's rights, were smoking, and it was a symbol of their liberation, okay? But those were plants in the marches, because Edward Bernays realized he paid those people to smoke. He realized psychologically that it's creating a need in people, and you play on their weaknesses. So advertising, but younger people are very sussed. It's very difficult well, I think after a certain age, people realize you get burnt very quickly in the new modern world. It took much longer in the old days. You get burnt very quickly now. This person did you in, you get your money back, can you? How many online, shopping things are legit or where people have been ripped off? So people are more careful now with their money. But the point is the value of money has changed. The negative value. If you've gotten less, if you're in debt, it's like how much debt is Trump in? How much debt is America in?
Oh, yeah.
And it's owed by China. I mean, it's crazy for me. Me and my mother's Portuguese. Just put the money in the mattress. Put the money in the mattress.
Very presidential of her.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, if it's load shedding, you can still get the money in the mattress.
Yeah. Yeah. How active are you in the creative sector itself, besides the shows that you bring out and some of the reporting that you still do reporting about the entertainment
Yes, I do.
sector? Okay, good. Yeah, and what are your thoughts about where the sector is going? I mean this in an industry sense, because one of my big areas of concern is how you can't really call it an industry if you haven't established a framework for regulation, fair regulation. So
you have to work on that because it's booming.
Yeah, that's an amazing
booming.
thing.
It's booming. It gives jobs to so many young people on technical levels. The creative industry is, I think, growing the fastest outside the financial industries. Yeah. So your question, I can't remember.
It was how are you involved in any way?
The only way I've been involved was, when I was a crime reporter, a very hectic story happened, and the news desk thought it was time for me to move away from reality and start writing about the arts. That was 1980 something, but that's where I fortuitously began to see John Carney, Winston Ntshona, Bongeni Ngema, all of those protest theatres, and that healed me. It healed me, and I became interested in theatre because I grew up as a Philistine. There were books around the house, but we would go to a Shakespeare from school at some Pretoria venue, and we wouldn't understand, because we know Shakespeare for the first 20 minutes. Kids don't understand it. It's like, the actors understand it and people in the theatre understand it, but Shakespeare's terrible for kids unless you make it accessible. You can change the themes and do what you like. There's actually a show on in Cape Town at the moment where people smoke dagga in the middle of doing Two Gentlemen of Verona. And they perform Shakespeare that way. It's sold out every night.
That's an actual show happening now. That's a show. Okay, that's crazy.
And kids are loving it. Actually, one of the people in the audience tells one of the actors on stage to take a drag of a bong. And they do Two Gentlemen of Verona, and then explaining to the audience the play itself, because Shakespeare's always got something interesting, and it's very adolescent because it's about jealousy, war, power, deceit, betrayal. It's every soap opera. Everybody seems to think that it's hugely literary, but the language is literary. But you can change it a bit. So people are performing Shakespeare in Long Street and, like pulling on a bong in the middle of it all. I've written about the arts for a long time.
Okay, yeah.
And seen thousands and thousands of productions. And have had to, and met extraordinary people in the industry. Actors, directors, seen their work, and just you can't not in some way be influenced by all of that. I mean, that's my magic space, my space of wonder. You could move in life between two sets of emotions: rage, which drives my journalism, and wonder, which drives my interest in the arts and my interest in sharing the arts with everybody.
I love that. I also wondered, when it comes to you have picked up on a story, you are now researching, and you're going to go into your investigative journalist deep dive mode, and you're going to follow a trail and pick up all the pieces of evidence that you need in order to write a piece about this. Are there any areas of interest for you where you're just going to research and see where this goes? Nothing to do with a piece that's been commissioned, nothing to do with...
Oh, I do that all the time.
Really? Okay.
I haven't been commissioned ever once in my life. Never.
Yeah.
I've never been commissioned. Well, I might have been for something, but I create my own work all the time.
Yeah.
Because whether I work for the Daily Maverick or not, I'm engaged, and somewhere it touched sides. I'm out there all the time. I think it's quite boring to just, that's the other thing that happens. You can become incredibly possessed and anxious and, what's happening to me. If you just live through your skin, not in it, live through your skin, make contact with people, talk to them, hear their stories, tell your story, eat their food, sing their music, learn their language. Living through your skin is a much better state of mind than living in it, and you can become quite trapped inside yourself. And then you start taking medications, and it becomes a circle. The minute you need to connect with other people, really, one way or another.
So what are you researching now?
Oh, a weird thing that happened to me at the KK&K. Because I'm an outsider Afrikaans speaker, Afrikaans is turning 100 next year. I went to Langenhoven's house, Arbeidsgenot. It's an interesting house. They had an interesting relationship. He was married to a woman 10 years older than him. And there is an affair there, but Afrikaners don't talk about it. But what happened at Arbeidsgenot is I spoke to a security guard. And she was wonderful. And she gave me an idea for a play. But then I went through all the Langenhoven books. And I found a picture of Vroukie, Langenhoven's wife, standing next to a woman called Sarah Carolus. She was the daughter of a slave woman who worked for the Langenhovens for 61 years. And the play's about her. She spoke Afrikaans. And the first suicide in South Africa is a slave woman in the Cape called Sarah. She hung herself rather than subject herself to VOC administration. They dragged her body down to Gallows Hill, where the traffic thing is today, and they hung her up because she did not belong to herself. She belonged to the company. She was a slave. Yeah. They charged her body in death. They took everything away from her. So suddenly that's what I'm working on. You asked me.
Yeah.
I mean, that was wonderful. I was sitting there talking to Angelique, this woman, and she's interested, and she's brown, and she speaks Afrikaans. And I'm not Afrikaans, and I speak Afrikaans. And there's something going on there in that house that needs revisiting. But Afrikaans turning 100 cannot turn 100 without Sarah Carolus, the story. The first Afrikaans is Arabic. The first written Afrikaans is Arabic. It's not Afrikaans. So Afrikaners are a wonderful group of people who fled Europe. They were Huguenots, and they were Dutch and German. They're not family. They're not a nation. They became one. And the language that we've adopted is growing, and because of its origins, and it's being spoken widely. That the University of the Western Cape is doing a dictionary of Afrikaans. You would think that Stellenbosch would do it.
Sure,
it's not doing it.
That isn't, in fact, but isn't the key to understanding the roots of Afrikaans lies in its first syllable?
Yes. Right. Yes, and that gets acknowledged because it's actually also the youngest language in the world. In 20 years, pardon me, it became an academic language and a teaching language and a literary language as a young language. And it's a really exciting language, but its roots go deeper. Sorry.
And I suppose that would speak to the diversity that you mentioned earlier. The different...
The last thing you want is a coughing guest.
No, my guests can cough and they can...
Anyway, it's the air.
My guests do a lot of things, including cough. So talking about the rich history of our origins and the peoples of South Africa speak very much to all these different influences. I even seem to recall that there were influences of Hindi. There was some author who had described certain words that can only be found in Hindi that are
South African.
Yeah.
In Afrikaans.
In Afrikaans. Fascinating story. What is the best thing?
What is borstel? Borstel is the best thing.
It would be the best thing.
Vicks, borstel, or Zambak is what I need right now.
The good thing is that we have all these different options to you.
Exactly.
Available. Here's a quick question which we're going to end with.
Go for it.
Do you cook?
No.
All right, so then you wouldn't put raisins in a curry, which is a fantastic...
No raisins in rice.
I love that.
No raisins in anything. Somebody called them humiliated grapes.
No further humiliation on this show. This is Reality Radio. My name is Jack Devnarain. Marianne Thamm, thank you so much. All the very best for the show tomorrow. Round of applause. South Africa still standing, happening at the Houghton Golf Course. Everybody, I hope you get a chance to go and watch the show and to support Marianne. Thank you so much. See you next Friday night, 6 to 7. It's Reality Radio.
Last cough for all of you.